Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to all of you here. Joining me on this one-on-one interview with Dr. Neera Gupta. She's currently resident in Singapore. We've known each other for quite some time since I was in South Korea, and we've been collaborating in a lot of projects, especially The Voice. She was the first person that introduced writing to me, and the book My Voice became a best-selling novel in Amazon. Please check it out. It's a very formidable and educating book. I'm one of the authors, volume 1. And I think they've written My Voice up to volume 7, if I'm right.
We're doing volume 9 now.
Volume 9 of My Voice. Very interesting. It has stories of different women from all over the world sharing their experiences as women and experts in different countries. So I'll start with what Dr. Neera believes in. She says, every voice deserves to be heard. Every story has the power to inspire. Dr. Neera Gupta transitioned from being a dental surgeon. So I'm coming to you so you take care of my dentition, and to a corporate sales, and ultimately became an entrepreneur, event organizer, TV host, professional MC, publisher, advocate for women empowerment. Her journey has been anything but straightforward, which is precisely what makes it unique and exciting. Through her experiences, she has discovered the most rewarding parts are often the ones we least expect. I totally agree with you. Dr. Nora, I'm so happy you accepted to honor my invitation to come and tell us your story so that we can hear firsthand, and for all the women that are tuning in to know that they're not alone. We share the same common values, struggles, and challenges in life. And so, like I shared with you earlier on, this is organized on behalf of the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network International. For this year, 2025, we decided we've done a lot of training, a lot of seminar, we've empowered a lot of women. And after that, what next? And so this is the next stage and level we're taking all our trainings to hear the stories of women that have worked with us and women who have benefited from this platform. And after the series of the one-on-one interview, we'll have a book published for women, the phenomenal women of 2025, which will also have part of the stories you're going to share with us today. So like I said, this is a story about you and nobody else. And there's no format. You're just going to introduce yourself to us through your family background, then your education, then your career, the impact you've had around the world, and your future inspiration. And then you leave us with a philosophy, what the women who are listening to this evening will take back home to see how it can impact their lives or the lives of people around them. So you're welcome. So please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your family background, and we listen. Thank you very much.
Well, firstly, thank you, Princess, for having me on this very, very important forum. It is such a delight. It is a pleasure, as well as the fact that I'm honored to be here. So thank you very much for that. Um, all right. So about me, one of the funniest questions I find when people ask me, where are you from? And I'm like, okay, how long do you have to think about that? Because I grew up in the Middle East in Abu Dhabi. That's where, I was raised. I'm Indian by my origin. I have Australian passport. I have Australian citizenship. I have lived in 5 different countries. I've lived in Japan, China. I've lived in India, of course. I've lived in Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, so many different countries actually. And right now, I've lived in Singapore for about 13 years. And right now I'm in Bali. So yes, that's a very interesting question when people ask me, where are you from? So I guess, in a way, I am a global citizen, so to say. But my growing up, it was very interesting, to grow up in the 70s in UAE. It was a very sheltered upbringing. All my friends went to the same school. We all, we had a very similar thinking. It wasn't about, we never saw anything like poverty. We never saw that people have problems. It was everybody, like it was a fairy tale land. Everybody lived a very happy life over there. And even for the women, we could do whatever we wanted to do. We could, study, we could go out. We didn't have to cover ourselves up or anything like that. So it was a very, very interesting sort of 17 years of my life. And then I moved to India, and that's where I did my dentistry. And that's where I saw a very different world. Now, of course, I used to go back to India for my vacations, but to go back and live there was very different. Um, Women were treated a bit differently in the sense that, women, you've stepped out of the house, and how women were treated was quite unique in that sense that we face a lot of eve teasing, catcalling, and it didn't matter how old you were, right? If you were a woman, and this especially in northern India. And a lot of women I knew were just used to it. So what you would do in that situation is you would walk away from it. But for me, I said, if we're walking away, we're giving them permission to behave like this again. And I said, we have a voice and we need to stand up for it. We need to tell them to stop. And but people said, it's too dangerous, just ignore them. Um, and it was very interesting because I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And where I went to study was a small town in northern India. It's about 4 hours from New Delhi. And I had to use public transport whenever I was traveling to Delhi. And it happened on public transport. It would happen when we went to the market. It happened everywhere. And there was one time where I just said, you know what, I can't take this anymore. And I stood up and I slapped the person and I said to him, I said, I've been asking you politely to stop coming so close to me, like literally sticking next to me. I said, stop. I've said so many times and you just wouldn't do it. And the people in the bus started, there were some people like girls from my college were all applauding, but then there were also people who thought I was a troublemaker just for standing up for myself, just for having that voice. But because I created a noise, eventually that person was asked to leave the bus, like literally thrown off the bus. And there were
Yeah.
so many such incidences where, I had to stand up and I would tell people that, if we just ignore this, they will do it again and again and again. Yes,
Yeah.
right now the person's embarrassed, which means next time he's going to do this, he may think before doing something like that.
Exactly.
And that was, I think, the first time I realized what having a voice what impact it can have. And so from there, I graduated, I finished 5 years of education. I went back to Delhi. My parents had now moved to Delhi, and then I married. Um, my boyfriend at the time of 4 years, we married, and that's where again life had changed completely because we traveled the world. We was a consultant, so every couple of months we were living in a different country. And that's where I saw again something so different, which a lot of people will take for granted. Now, the first country I visited was Singapore. And in Singapore, women were going to work, they were roaming around everywhere. They were wearing whatever they wanted to wear. They were using public transport. Nobody stared at them. You could be in a very, very tight place, and yet you didn't feel a hand coming from somewhere or anything like that. And the fact that you are safe, it it is a privilege. It is really a privilege, and it shouldn't be, right? And
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this, something we can't even imagine. It's happening here. And I said, this is where, I would want to come and live again,
Hmm.
because I felt like this is just amazing how women don't have to worry about the basic thing, which is their own safety and their own security. You could be out in the middle of the night and you're still okay.
Hmm.
Uh, and that to me was like, okay, you know what? that is empowerment. We talk about so many different things, but having that safety, having that security, being able to wear whatever you want to wear, to me, I felt that is true empowerment. From there, I went and lived in many different countries. When I went and lived in Taiwan, again, I saw something very interesting. There were more women in workforce than men. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting.
Mm.
And there were women who were married, who were unmarried, who were older. So I asked, I made some friends and I said, so your family's okay with, you're married, you have kids, but they're okay for you to work. And they looked at me in a very funny way. They're like, what do you mean they're okay? Why would I need someone's permission
Mm.
to make my own decisions? And I was like, no, I understand, but I'm just, wondering, like, was there no pressure? Um, and they're like, and again, for them, again, they grew up with that. So,
Yeah.
and to me, I was like, this is really, really amazing. Like growing up, my parents were very forward thinking and they said, you could do whatever you wanted to do, from an education standpoint, and then if you wanted to work or anything like that. But I do know a lot of women in many different countries. And I also know that for India as well, back in the days, of course,
Yeah.
once you're married or if you have kids, there's an expectation to stay at home. Even countries, many Asian countries still have that where women are expected to stay home. In fact, I've now that I've been out and I'm talking to people, I've seen that many Western countries have that thinking as well, where they're like, okay, once you become a mother, your job role changes. It should
Yeah.
only be kids. You can't do both. Um, but I just found it very interesting where they didn't even think of it like that. The fact that you need someone's permission or is your family okay with that? And that was again where I said, oh, that's right. Again, isn't this true empowerment to be able to make your own decisions in terms of whether you want to work or not? I mean, if somebody decides that, I want to look after my kids and that is my primary role, fine. But if there are people who say, no, but I do want to get back to work, there's more to me than, being a wife and a mother. But having that freedom to make your own decisions, your own choices,
Yeah.
to me, again, that was true empowerment. I said, this is really empowering. And again, like to the people I spoke in Taiwan, for them, it was a way of life. But
Yeah.
again, to many women in many different countries, it is a privilege to have.
Yeah.
And then, from there, of course, we went to different countries. Then it was Japan. Now, Japan was very different again. Whilst it's a very polite society and very respectful society,
Yeah.
for me, the way women are treated, or at least from what I saw,
Yeah.
I never agreed with that. Like, if they're very hierarchical, and if there's a board meeting, everybody knows who sits where, and the most important person sits in a certain place, and so on and so forth. But the way women are also treated at workplace is not equal. Like, if you've printed something, I mean, as in, if a guy has printed something and a woman has printed something, and you're going to a common printer to pick up. Now, if the woman's printout comes before the guy's, she's apologetic. She will apologize. She will apologize that, oh, I'm so sorry that my printout has come before yours. And again, to me, I was like, why is there this inequality? Even in Japan, a lot of women are expected that once they have kids, they have to stay back. And, why does she need it's about why does she need to work? It's
Mm.
about the need. So again, for me, I was like really taken aback of that, oh, right, it exists in many different countries. Then when I moved to Australia, now here was a completely different way of life. Like women were so vocal. They could, they would make jokes, they could say things to people, like to their male colleagues or friends. And I just was like, did you just say that? Like, oh my God. I was like totally taken aback, especially coming from an Asian background, for women to be so vocal, so upfront about things. I mean, I was like, this is really, really amazing. And to me, I felt like, okay, well, here's a country where, again, women and men are equal because women are so vocal and they can say whatever they want to say, until I joined the workforce. And that's where I started to realize, when you initially join, everything looks great, everything's great, everyone, everyone goes out. But what I soon realized was there was this whole concept of the boys' club, right? The boys will go out and they will drink beers, they will swear, and women were not invited. Like me and some of my colleagues, we weren't invited to those. I mean, if there were work drinks, that's different. But when the boys would go out, we weren't invited. And I said, okay, fine. If that's how it is, that's fine. I mean, that's okay. But then what the boys club also does is all of the promotions are decided in that. Everything, the raises are decided in that. If you're in the club, you will get that promotion. If you're not in the club, you don't get that promotion. That's where I said, well, that's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
Promotion shouldn't be on how many beers you can drink and how much you can swear and the fact that you're a guy. The promotion should be based on capability. And if I'm not capable and I don't get it,
Sorry.
sorry, that's fine. But if I am more capable, seeing somebody else being promoted was something that was not acceptable to me. Now, that's where, again, everybody said, well, that's how it happens. Yeah, that's how it happens. Now, the thing is, it has changed a lot because now companies, especially the multinational companies, they have proper policies in place. But, about 20 years ago, this was something that was still being developed. It was very American concept to have policies in place, ombudsman where you could complain if something
Yeah.
unjust was happening. But in the smaller companies, that wasn't the case. It was all about whoever's in the power gets to decide.
Yeah. So I want to just draw your attention back a little bit. After listening to all your experiences in these different countries, and I'm sure you know that a lot of us, through the news, we see how rape and sexual harassment is rampant in India. I just wanted
Yeah.
to ask that while you were in India, what do you think were uh, the variables that encourage rape and sexual harassment of women?
And which is what I'd highlighted on, the eve teasing, the catcalling, the sexual harassment. It is rampant. It is very, very rampant. And I think, again, there are lots of research done on it. As a individual, what I feel is number one thing is the law. The law is not strict enough for people to feel that deterrence is not happening,
Yeah.
right? In Singapore, again, why Singapore has low crime or less crime or no crime is because the law is so strict
Hmm.
that people are afraid. Whereas in India, there are laws, but the laws are not as strict. The people who hold the law, they are not always available. So, for a woman to even report something that has happened to her is as equal as being harassed. So a lot of
Hmm.
women don't report these things, right? I think education also, we don't have a concept of sex education at all. In fact, they say if you do sex education, um, people will know more and they would go in the wrong direction
Hmm.
without realizing that actually, can you see what's already happening, right?
Yes.
Things are already happening, which means sex education is not the cause of it.
Yeah.
The fact that people don't know enough is the cause of it.
Yeah.
Also, again, it's also the value system. Again, we earlier you brought on the word called value. It is a value system that doing something like that is okay. It's okay.
Hmm.
It's a big deal. I mean, she's the one who stepped out of the house. She's asking for it.
Hmm.
That's the value system, the education, the law. It's a really a combination of a lot of different things that we can say is the cause of it.
Just before you came on, I and Liz, who is also in this interview, we were just discussing the importance of every year we go for CWS New York International Women's Day. And I want to ask if for the past many years that this International Women's Day celebration and deliberation has been going on, if it has had any impact on how women are treated in India, if the laws have improved or when these international laws are implemented or are advocated for, it translates to a change back home in India.
So I think a lot has changed in the last few years. I can say that for myself as well. Like, the when I moved out of India, I wasn't very keen on going back for certain reasons like these. And what happened is now when I go back, I see a lot of women, they are wearing whatever they want to wear. They feel a little bit safer as compared to before, definitely. Um, we of course have a lot of women in workforce, a lot of young women in workforce. People graduate and they start working as well. And so definitely there has been a shift in terms of the safety and security for women, but it's still a long way to go. We can see that in the cities, in the bigger cities, things are improving, but still in the smaller towns and the villages, it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, thank you very much. So tell us a little bit how you were able to move from being a dental surgeon to being an entrepreneur. I think a lot of women here will want to know how to rebrand themselves because of the mobility they experience, and how to transit from your present career to another one. If you can share with us how you successfully, because you're a very successful entrepreneur, from being a dental surgeon to being an author, a publisher, and a writer.
It's an interesting journey. Of course, I studied to be a dentist. So the expectation is that you work as a dentist. And again, the first 2 years, I was traveling so much that it was very difficult for me to be able to practice anywhere. Because my duration of stay in any country wasn't more than 1 or 2 months. I of course I used that time to explore different cultures, different cities, and I made the best of it. And then, of course, when I moved to Australia, I did my bridging exams. I even passed those exams, and but I just said to myself, "Is this what I want to do?"
Mm.
And the answer was no, I didn't want to do this. And of course, my husband was extremely supportive, and he said, "Look, if that's not what you want, find what you want to do." Because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just went for a job interview, which was for an events company in a sales role. And the beauty about Australia was that because it's a country with skills shortage, it doesn't matter what you studied, right?
Mm.
It's about what you can do.
Good.
And I just said, I'd like this job, and I interviewed, and they said, you know what, we would love to hire you. And I was like, okay, great. Now, what do I do? I don't even have any business acumen. And of course, they provided the training, and I loved it. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of dedication, but I said, you know what? That's something I can do. And so I practiced and practiced, and I learned and I worked, and and I became one of the top salespeople without having any sales background. But it was all about wanting to do this. That's where it all came from, that I wanted to do this and I wanted to prove myself that I wasn't less than anybody else. And, so on and so forth. And then, of course, because I felt that I didn't have the business acumen, I went and did my master's in management because I needed that. I said, if I need to grow, I
Mm.
will need a little bit more education. So that's what I did. I also educated myself in the field of management because that's where I wanted to do. So I think hard work, dedication, and then upskilling, right? In
Yeah.
terms of what I needed to do and the whole education part. So all of these things helped me with my next step.
Mm.
And then from there on, of course, again, I moved countries. Again, it was a challenge because now I'm in Hong Kong. GFC had just struck. There were no jobs. Um, Either you start at a very bottom level, or you bring your own book of business. That's what's expected, which I didn't because I was new in the country. And again, that whole challenge of what do I do next? I went for different interviews. I struggled. And somehow I decided, well, you know what? If this is not going to happen, I'm going to do something which I can do in my own terms. And that's when I started writing my first book.
Hmm.
And I used that time. I wrote, there were days I could write, there were days I couldn't write, but I completed the book. And of course, that's the first time I realized that it's easier to write a book than publishing one. That, going to traditional publishers, sending your manuscripts. And at the time, you had to send them your entire manuscript by mail. You couldn't email them, and it was just so difficult to get published. But anyway, I finally did get published, and what an achievement that was. So, going from not being able to do something to then becoming a published author. So that's where I also felt that, if things are not happening in a certain way, we need to be flexible, resilient, yes, but we also need to be flexible and to say, okay, well, if that's not working out, what can work out?
Hmm.
And that's what I did. And what an achievement, right? To be able to write and publish a book in that time frame where I wasn't able to get a job. From there
Hmm.
on, of course, I moved to Singapore.
I'll ask a question here
Yes.
and then open it up for the ladies if they have any question from what you've shared before we go to the next this thing. I also want to use this opportunity to say thank you because after you invited me to join my voice, that also gave me the idea of starting the publishing house we have with the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network. We also have a publishing house and we started the project, The Niche, that uh, allow the women in the network to publish their stories so that they can also earn passive income. So this is what we talk about collaboration, when two women come together, sharing their skills and learning from each other and in a way that empowers each other. And so you've empowered me in ways of sharing your dreams with me and making me part of your dream. And now I've also affected over 30 women right now who have shared their stories in our niche program. And we have 5 series of the niche that will be completed. And now I'm moving on to the Phenomenal Women of 2025. By April, I'll be publishing my 5th book, Leadership in Diaspora. And so it's so amazing how you coming into my life propelled me to be an author and a prolific writer as within how many years, 3 or 4 years that
Yeah.
we've been in this, and how it has also given an opportunity to employ other women in the publishing house of the network. So I want to open it to the audience if they have any question from what you have shared with them, so that you take a breather and they can also welcome you. So you can all unmute your mic and say, welcome to Dr. Neera. And if you have any question, if there's anything you want to say to her. So Liz, are you going to?
Um, okay, so let me say welcome, Dr. Neera. It's been interesting and inspiring listening to you. My question will have to do with um, women. You talked about different areas where you've gone and how women have been treated differently. And you talked about the men, the male treatment of women. What would you say about the same settings that you've been in? How do the women treat the women? Because I've gone to a few places where you see that the older women are not really standing behind the younger women. So the younger women still have to fight the same fights that the older women have fought. What has been your experiences?
Thank you very much. That's a fantastic question. And you are so right that, it is the women who would say, oh, well, boys will be boys, men will be men. That's what they do. Instead of educating and telling them that, no, this is not right. This is not how you treat a woman. They they're going back in that whole cycle of, I was treated like that, and everybody else gets treated like that as well. So they are not breaking the chain at all right now. Again, I do feel that it is our generation who is doing that. But prior to that, I think it was still about um, women were not supporting other women, but things are really changing now, where whether it is at workplace, whether it is at home, whether it is in general society, women are now coming and supporting each other.
Yeah. I
Great.
also want
Thank
to
you.
add that,
Thank you.
yes, women are supporting each other, but there's still this hierarchy within the womenhood fold where older women feel that the younger women should oblige them. They know it all, that when they advise the younger women, they must follow. And once the younger women don't follow, then they tend not to lift them up, you know. And from experiences, a lot of women in position of leadership, they really feel reluctant. It's as if they make it steep for the younger ones to catch up with them by expecting very complicated standard for the younger ones. They have to follow a certain code. They have to do certain things to be able to get to where they are. So I think this is an opportunity to address the older women, that they should know that the generational gap is different. How we saw duties or workplace ethics have changed. So they need to help the younger women stretch out their hands and lift them up and mentor them, you know, and they shouldn't see one another as competitors. We're on one team. We're working towards the same goal where will bridge the gap of gender disparity or equity among women in the workplace. So yes, it's for all of us to learn and to implement. When we find ourselves in a position of power, we should not see the next woman as our competitor. We should not look down on them to say, oh, they're not as educated as I am. They are not this, they are not that. The first thing you see is that there's a woman who needs to be mentored, who needs to be assisted, or who needs to be taught to share your skills with. I think that's what Liz is talking about, especially in Africa, where older women see it as a right. They will refer to a matured woman, my daughter. You know, as women, we must learn to respect each other without having to put each other down by addressing each other in terms of pronoun. Oh, she's my daughter. Oh, she's, you know, no. A woman to woman, you're equals. No matter the difference in age or position. When we respect one another, then the men will get to understand that they also need to address us and respect us much better than we address. I think that should be the message. Women should respect each other. You should never see another woman and feel superior to that woman, or because you're in a financial or educational or career position that is higher than the other woman, you think she's beneath you. We need to stop all that. First and foremost, we should see each other as equals, and then relate to each other as human beings first, before the power plays or the degree plays that happen amongst women almost all the time. Thank you. So now, is there any other question from any other person before we move on for her to talk to us about her impact? Is there anybody that wants to ask a question? Okay, so please, can we go on if you share what impact you've had in all these countries that you visited, with all the collaboration? I'm one of your impact. Excuse me, I have to say that. So when you share your impact, you have to mention me, because
mention you. Yeah.
I'm one of your beneficiary of your impact. Through my collaboration with you, I know what has happened to my life. Now I have written my own personal memoir. I'm writing, I've concluded a 5th book that will be published soon, and I'm still on another one. So I really want to use this opportunity to say thank you for how you have mentored me to be this writer that I have become.
Absolutely. So, I again, from continuing my journey from corporate, how I went into entrepreneurship firstly was, I'd done the work. I'd been working in different events companies, and that's when I just said, I want to do my own thing. And of course, there was so much support from friends and family to say, okay, well, if this is what you want to do, start off with something. And of course, we were doing lots of different events. One of the events that I did was where we had gotten a group of women together, and they were mostly entrepreneurs who were either starting out or at a point where, you're thinking about what next. And we had to bring some women speakers to talk about, different things, different levels of entrepreneurship, and, how can they make their business better. So we had, of course, the usual at the time was Facebook advertising had come to Facebook. We had somebody from Google as well. We had, women from different companies, board of directors. And so everybody came and, they did their part. So one of the women who came and she started talking about her personal journey, about how things happened in her personal life that affected her work. And I'm thinking in my mind, why is she talking about her personal story? Who even cares? Who wants to hear, what happened and what she did about it? Stick to the script, like talk about your business, how you sold businesses, how you built businesses. Anyway, and I'm looking around, looking at people, and, everybody's listening, paying attention. I said, okay. And then the next speaker comes, and she's been in lots of different boards of companies, and, it's a director. And so she was supposed to come and talk about the glass ceiling and things like that. And then she talks about her personal failures. And she also talks about how she was in a room full of men, and she's a board member, but they treat her like a tea lady. Like they're asking her to bring out printouts and things. And I'm like, again, why are you telling people all of this? Tell people all your glory and none of this. And I did not, at myself personally saying this, I did not realize the importance of stories, importance of journeys, and what impact it has on other people until it was break time and everybody was chatting in the room, and we were a bit worried, people are going to say, we didn't come here for this, we didn't come here to listen to this. And how wrong I was when I spoke to people and I said, how was the session? They said, and I assumed they will say, oh, Google and Facebook were fantastic. But they came and said, the last two speakers were absolutely wonderful. And I said, but why? In a nice way. I said, really? What was interesting? And they said, we go to events and we hear about all these amazing stories of amazing people, but that's not inspirational because we can never be them. We come back feeling worse than what we did going into that. But the fact that we could relate to the last two speakers, that they have been in our shoes, the fact that, they have gone from here to here, not without challenges. And they said that was inspiring. It was comforting to hear other people's stories that, if she's been through it and I'm being through it, it's comforting. Number two, if she can do it, so can I. And the number three was knowing how to do it, right? Okay, you've done it, good for you, but how can I improve my life? How can I do things better? They said, this is what we want to hear more of. And that was such an eye opener for us because before that, we just assumed that people want to hear inspirational people want to hear influential people on things like that. But no, people want to hear from everyday people because we all go through challenges, we all have problems, and how we overcome them and what others can learn from that. Now, that's true inspiration. And from there, we changed our events. Our events then became about women, about journeys, about empowering each other, again, supporting each other. We not seeing women as threat, which is the thing that we were talking about earlier, but pulling each other up. We don't need to push them down. We need to uplift everyone. And when we uplift everyone, everyone grows together. And that's what we learned. And again, of course, COVID happened, right? So no more events were happening.
Exactly.
And that's when we were like, okay, we are all baking breads and making cocktails and putting all these wonderful pictures on Facebook and Instagram, but we were all suffering, right?
Mm.
We Well, it was hard. Like we didn't know what's happening. We couldn't meet our families, the ones, especially for all of us that were living overseas,
Yeah.
and having to homeschool young children, having to spend so much family time together. It was a whole new thing for us. And when we did some Zoom calls with friends, and I was like, why are we not talking about it? Why are we not saying that, what, some days I don't like my kids anymore. I don't want to be with them. I'm afraid of COVID. I'm afraid of, isolation. I'm afraid of what's happening to my parents or something else. Or, some days you don't want to see your husband anymore either. But why are we not talking about what we are feeling? Why do we have to just paint this beautiful picture? That gave me the idea of the hashtag my voice, which
Yes.
is what we said every woman has a voice and it
Yeah.
needs to be heard. And so
Yeah.
we started off literally by, letting our friends know we're doing something. So Shikha and I just went around telling people that we're doing this. And, whoever wants to join, it's safe, it's not recorded or anything. It's a safe space for us to talk about the challenges and issues we are
Yeah.
facing. And it started off with few people, and you we were just so everybody wanted to talk, and there were people who didn't want to talk, and that was okay as well, right? Not everybody wants to talk.
Yeah.
After a few sessions we decided that instead of just saying things, why don't we also use this time again to become better versions of ourselves? That's when we started inviting speakers to come and, discuss about topics, make it an open forum, whether we want to talk about courage, whether we want to talk about resilience, any of those things, confidence building, the challenges that, we women face, or even entrepreneurship. Like, okay, well, this is a time where people can rethink about what they want to do in life if it is something. So we started doing that, and that's where the idea came that we have such a wonderful network of such powerful women who are inspiring. They are everyday women. They're like my sister, my friend, the lady next door, and everybody has such a inspiring story. Why don't we write a book? And that's where the whole idea of the whole my voice came. And it's so funny because the first book, the one that you're in, Princess, it
Yeah.
didn't have volume one written on it because there wasn't supposed to be a series. It was just going to be one book. So it just says hashtag my voice.
Yes.
And, it was so endearing that people, even though we had no publishing background,
Yeah.
women, because they trusted us, and obviously, the first book will be the most dearest thing to us.
Yeah.
They trusted us that, yes, we are ready to share our story because the stories are very personal. The stories are so diverse,
Yeah.
from somebody surviving cancer to somebody, moving countries to somebody moving careers and, dealing with grief. The stories are so diverse, and
Yeah.
people from all over the world
Yeah.
came and shared their journey. And because again it was very difficult for us to go to a traditional publisher asking them to publish the book, because they said, you know what, none of the women in your this thing, they're not influencers. And I said, well, yes, everybody cannot be Michelle Obama. I
Mm.
mean, but these are important stories. I have read stories of these people, and I'm like, yes, Oprah Winfrey, but I'm not her, I can't relate to her. So but these are stories that everybody can relate to. There will be something in some story where you would be like, oh yeah, that's me, or that's somebody else I know. But
Mm.
they said no, they will not publish it. And we were so heartbroken. We said we put in so much effort into doing this, and we said, you know what, if nobody else is going to publish it, we are going to do it. And without, again, any knowledge of knowing publishing, knowing what to do, we decided we are going to do this. Then we went on. It took us 6 months to set up the publishing house, get the right team together. We made mistakes as well, but we learned from those mistakes.
Yeah.
And then we went on, we put a publishing house, and then we knew that, you know what, we're not going to stop at one, because now that we already had the authors, we had so many more people saying, oh, but we want to write as well. And
Yeah.
that was so encouraging. And we said, this is a movement. This is the way we can give voice to so many women out there. We can inspire so many women and men and children through these
Yeah.
stories who are going to read about these people. We are giving women a chance to leave a legacy behind, right? Of their own journeys, that they matter. Every single woman matters. Their story matters, and it needs to be heard. And so that's where, we set up the publishing house. And now we're working on the 9th volume of hashtag My Voice. We also have the Shaken, Stirred, but Not Deterred. We've just released the
Yeah,
3rd volume for that.
yeah,
And again, we had men saying to us that, we have important stories as well. We would like our stories to be heard as well.
yeah,
And that's where we said, okay, my voice is for women only, but for Shaken, Stirred, but Not Deterred. So for the last volume, we invited some men who also wanted to share their journeys as well,
yeah,
because, they said, we are all about empowering women and we would like to um,
yeah,
share our story. That's where it has been. And of course, we've had so many more solo books that we've published for people. It is about, writing is, people write for passion, people write because they want to gain credibility. Because, of
yeah,
course, if you're writing about your subject matter expertise, then it
yeah.
is about being seen as an authority in the
And
topic. It is about inspiring people. So there are
mm.
so many different needs that can be fulfilled by writing and sharing your story.
Thank you so much. We also want to open the floor. If you want to write in Shaking Stead and Not Deter, please, you can contact her through me. We also have the niche series where we talk about your life, and we publish is on Amazon. You can make passive income like from my voice, hashtag my voice. I have book launches. I do book signature. They have author's price. You buy cheap and then you can sell at the Amazon price and you can make some income. We also own a publishing house. Everything concerning our publishing house we learned from Neera and Shika when we got the opportunity to work together. So thank you so much for sharing your stories. We just want to give you 5-10 minutes to tell us what your future aspiration is, and then leave us a word, food for thought that these women will go home with, and to see how they can input what they've heard from you into their different struggles or into their lifestyle. Are there any questions? If anybody has something to ask before she gives us her final listing.
It's not a
Anybody?
question. I just wanted to say that when she talked about her being in a conference and listening to women tell their stories, and that was not what she wanted to listen to. I
Yes.
also used to think so before, but I realized that when you listen to other people's stories,
Yes.
sometimes it is a healing process for women who have gone through something similar. So they have gone through very difficult times. They think that they are the only ones. Instead of coming out and sharing it and talking about it and getting it off your chest, you keep it inside. But when
Yeah.
you hear others talk about the difficulties and the challenges that they've gone through, it inspires you to also come out and say what you have gone through, and it
Mm.
helps you to grow.
Yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. It is a powerful tool. When women tell
Yeah.
their stories, lives change. You know, women tend to see from the eyes of other women, from the struggles of other women, and from the successes of other women. They will say to themselves, if this woman can do this, I also can do it. And you always see a woman having a mentor that, oh, when I saw this woman, after I knew what she went through, and when I look at her today, I can't recognize her. So why am I not able to do that? So stories do change lives. It challenges you to do better. It helps you to move from point A to point B. It helps you to look for like-minded people to work or to interact with or to collaborate with. So thank you very much. So we'll be listening to you, rounding up, telling us about your future plans and food for thought. And we'll all go home hearing all the good stories and inspiring stories you've said to us tonight.
Can I say something?
Okay, go ahead, Nkechi.
Yeah, when you started talking, Dr. Gupta, you mentioned how your uh, husband was very supportive. That was very important because most of our journeys start from our homes, especially when you're married. And I appreciate when we women acknowledge the help of our spouses. I appreciate because it's not every husband that is supportive of their women. So I just want to encourage us women not to forget their contribution to our successes. And part of that contribution is allowing you to be you, staying home, taking care of the family when you need to be outside, not giving you, not stressing you so much. But some of those silent things they do that help you to be who you are. I just like that you acknowledge your husband in your journey. And I just pray that all our spouses will help us and not, not bring us down, because what is the use of being successful and you go home and there's no success in your home. So as women, I just want us to encourage. I just want to encourage each other. And when we find women, because like me, part of my passion is for those women that don't have support at all. Not even just the support, but they're being brought down at home. So maybe one of these days, Kego will talk about how to help such women.
Yeah.
How to identify them and help them. So I don't know if you have ever come across such a person, and how do we help them?
Yeah, like the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network, we have an initiative called the Legal Hand. And what do we do in the Legal Hand? We provide anonymous psychiatric services to women who are battered, sexually harassed, domestic violence, and are homeless. And then we provide shelter for them. We also provide legal aids for them. We work pro bono with communities that women are being sexually harassed. And then we have a grief counselor for women who have lost their loved ones and are not coping well, all anonymous by women, because women like to preserve their privacy. We've noticed that a lot of women don't come out to share their grief or their battery because of shame. We shame them. And because of shame, they rather endure the inhumane treatment they go through at home, the verbal and physical abuse they go home. They experience at home, because once they feel when they share with another woman, that woman will look down on them, and the woman will go around spreading their discomfort at home. So what we do at the network, once we come in contact with such a woman, first of all, we find out whether it's a matter of life and death, her safety. If it's a matter of life and death, then we recommend a shelter of moving her away from danger. And secondly, providing her psychological and legal aid pro bono, and it's anonymous. We'll only provide a number without a name or without details, but the professionals and experts will help them find a way to relocate or to report the matter in appropriate quarters, that they will get the appropriate support and action needed to preserve their lives or to take them away from harm. So it's about availability. And what we need to do is to encourage women that their stories are safe with us. We're not going to shame them. We're not going to look down on them, because in one way or the other, we're all going through the same kind of discomfort in our home in different degree. And the resilience level of each woman is different. There's something what we go through, and it will not occur to her that she's been abused. Another woman will go through it and she'll be emotionally battered and she'll be a nervous wreck. So we have to be sensitive to women around us. We need to first, like my husband will say, first believe the victim before you judge the victim. Any woman who comes to you and say, I've been sexually harassed, or I've suffered domestic violence, it is not in our place to ask, what did you do? That is not the right question. The right question will be, how can I help you? Are you safe? Do you want to talk about it? Because immediately you ask the question, what did you do? They will buckle up. They are not going to share with you again. You will not reach them on the phone. You will not know their whereabouts. So as women, we also need to go to seminars and workshops to learn how do we deal with these vulnerable women, that we don't drive them back to their shell. A lot of women commit suicide. It's not because they want to die. They find no other option. Emotionally, they are bankrupt. They think they are all alone. They do not feel the hands of other women around them. All they feel is shame. So we need to do better. We need to do better. Any position you're in, if you can identify a woman who is battered, don't gossip about them. Don't put them down. Don't share their stories around the neighborhood, creating more shame for them and making the environment toxic for them. Is to find out from them, how can I help? Are you okay? You can trust me, you know. And if it is a matter of life and death, you must contact the authorities. You must raise the red flag. You must not keep quiet. But you must raise the red flag in the appropriate manner by telling the appropriate authorities, not by telling stories, using them in prayer requests and all sorts of self-serving manner. But it must be the safety of the woman.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. I don't know if Dr. Gupta has anything to say in
No,
that manner.
I think, especially Princess, what you're doing is absolutely wonderful. And the fact that it's very interesting that you also acknowledge that, sometimes we even ourselves don't know, right? So the fact that you're also providing the training for people to ask the right questions and not judge. And I think, and what you said about your husband saying, don't ask questions, don't judge them, first believe them and then move on from there. And the safety and security is the number one priority for women. And again, providing that safe space for them to be able to talk about what has happened, giving them the right counsel, giving them the right legal aid if that is required, the psychological help that they require, because a lot that happens. And the number one reason is, of course, there's fear, but shame again. And women don't realize is that you don't need to be ashamed. You have done nothing wrong. The person who's doing it to you, they should be ashamed of what they're doing. But we have been taught to feel guilty, to feel shame, and and of course, there's a whole fear factor as well of what is going to happen to me, what are people going to think, so many different levels, and to provide that correct counsel to people, I think is very, very important. So
Very
that's
important.
really great work, and especially for expat women, because they don't know. They're in a new country. The legal system is different. They may not have friends and family where they're living. And for them to not have that support, even, what you said about losing somebody, if they've lost their husband, who's the main bread earner, what are they going to do? How are they going to do things? What will happen to the children? So providing them all of that support is so important, whether it is to get a new job, to, deal with grief, to deal with
we
sexual
retrain
harassment,
them.
everything. It's wonderful.
We retrain them. They want to start a business. We teach them how to start a business with zero capital. If they want to a capacity building, that's why we have most of our workshop, like Neera, and all the seminars we have just for capacity building for the different women. And today I'm happy to say that in over 25 countries, I have seen women who have been on the network now owning businesses that are empowering other people. Most of them, they've gone, further than I have, and I'm so proud that they are my protege. Through my mentorship and through the knowledge I share with them, they have gone ahead of me. They're doing very well, and because of the impact I've had in their lives, they've also impacted so many women in their different communities around the world. And that is something we must do. When you are being impacted, the ripples, you don't know where it stops. It's a multiple ripples. You take one woman out of poverty, you take her whole family out of poverty, and from her whole family being lifted up of poverty, they will influence another family. So don't ever think that the little that you're doing is nothing. At least it changes the life of one person. And once the life of one person changes, there are many other lives that will benefit from just that one life that you've changed. So let's start with the one closest to us. And then once we are able to do that, then our eyes can be open to other vulnerable people around us. And then we know what to do with them.
Absolutely.
And any more contribution before Dr. Gupta runs up? I also want to use this opportunity to thank Brenda and Mojisola and Liz and Kechi, who have tuned into this program and have been very interactive. And we'll be publishing the interview on all the social media handles for other women who have not been, that they have the opportunity to join us to have access to it and can contact us directly. So thank you. So Neera, can you just give us your closing philosophy, food for thought, and a word for us to hold close to our heart? Thank you.
Absolutely. And once again, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for allowing me to share my journey, to share my story, my learnings, my failures, all of that with
Yeah.
everybody who's been here, and also giving me a platform to be able to talk about the publishing house and, how the whole publishing house came about. And of course, to everybody who's here today and who is listening to us later on, if you have a story to share, please let us know, because when if you share it, then a lot of different people can be inspired and motivated by your journey, whether it is a story for a chapter in an anthology or whether you want to write a complete book. We're here to help you from from a concept to taking it to an Amazon #1 bestseller. So that's what we can do for you.
Yeah.
And with that, I'd like to just leave everybody with, last few words that I have is, when you are heard, you are sharing responsibility and making a difference, turning challenges into inspiration, and ultimately providing much needed support to make life happen on your own terms. So to have a voice is to have a power. So please use your voice.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
Oh,
much. Thank you so much. We're grateful. We've
Awesome.
enjoyed this evening with you and morning for you. We apologize for the mix-up in timing and the different time zone. It's crazy to keep up with the different timing, but I really appreciate you honoring us. We look forward to working with you, the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network. Enjoy the pool of experts like you that collaborate with us to make our programs and our activities successful, through you reaching many other women in different parts of the world and showing that as women we can support each other, and as women we can learn from one another. So I just want to really, on behalf of the members of the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network International all over the world, thank you for honoring our invitation. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. We will take this story far and wide for other women to see that it's possible. It's possible to be a wife, to be a mother, and to be a career woman or a business woman. It's possible for you to achieve your dreams. It's possible for you to rebrand yourself. Time is never too late. There's always a beginning, and time is not a factor for you not to try. We just keep trying as women. So I want to thank all of you that have joined us. We wish you the very best. If you need anything from Dr. Gupta, please contact me. I'll link you up directly. If you need any help from the network, we're here. We have experts all over the world that can help you in different fields that you need to be helped. Liz is here from Ghana. She's one of the members of the Expert Professional and Business Women's Network in Ghana. Brenda is here with me, and Kechi and Mojisola. So there are so many women out there willing and happy to help you in whatever situation you are in, professionally or personally. Thank you and God bless.
Thank
So
you.
I'm going
Thank you.
to,
Thank you.
thank
God
you,
bless.
Dr. Gupta. Yeah, it
thank
was
you.
awesome.
Thank you,
Yeah,
everyone.
awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. God bless you.
God bless you.
And this edition is for the International Women's Day celebration. I
Oh.
selected 2 women to be celebrated in the month of March, and Dr. Gupta was one of them. Her partner, Dr. Shika, will be interviewed. Because of time factor, I couldn't fix. March was not convenient for her. So the next speaker will be coming up on the 26th of March. She's a counselor in the UK, working with the UK government. So she'll also come and talk about women in politics. So please come join us and hear directly from her. So we want to thank you so much for everything you have done for us. I'm really appreciative of your support, especially during the COVID period, how you engaged me. Oh my goodness, you don't know what you did. You don't know how happy I am to get up and get ready for your online programs. It was through you that I got used to using Zoom. I need you to know that, and it was through you teaching me how to use Zoom that I started expanding the network digitally. So all women from all over the world was joining into our program. And I also want to use this opportunity to encourage women. When a woman has been a blessing in your life, please let them know, acknowledge them, thank them, appreciate them. Don't feel intimidated. It's not a competition. And that's what I wanted to exhibit to Neera today, that I really appreciate what the skills and the opportunity she brought to the network that I've used to empower other women. So when women empower you or open doors for you, please acknowledge them. Acknowledge what they have done in your life. Acknowledge the work they have done. That is the only way they will know that, yes, they are making impacts in the lives of other people. So this is a lesson for each one of us. For women to support women, we must acknowledge their impacts in our life. For women to be successful, we must work as a team. We're on one team. There are no other team. We're all women. And the plight of one woman is the plight of another woman. So, Neera, this has been a pleasure. And this is a recording of our collaboration. At any time we play this interview, I'm sure both of us will have a good feeling in our heart to know that as a team we've achieved and we have impacted so many people through our work together and our individual work. Thank you so much. And God bless you.
Thank you so much.